trading partners by Farouk J. Contractor published yesterday 11:30 p.m. Reuters. Farouk J. Contractor share tweet email Reddit print share tweet email Reddit print acting on his campaign rhetoric that China is raping our country. United States President Donald Trump announced tariffs on steel, aluminum and other products, threatening a trade war. 10 facts about the trade relationship highlight the challenges confronting the two countries. Point 1. The U.S. has a $337 billion deficit with China. This deficit worsens with every year. The deficit is worse for goods alone, since the U.S. enjoys a surplus in services. Point 2. The U.S. applies a 1.6% weighted mean tariff on imported products. Partly explains why the U.S. is by far the world's biggest importing nation. Most advanced countries have average tariffs below 5%, according to the World Bank. Tariffs alone, especially when so low, may not explain fundamental imbalances in trade. Advanced economies typically have low tariff rates trending downward. Averages can mask variations from 0 to over 100%, and quotas and regulatory barriers present bigger obstacles. Source: World Bank. 3. The U.S. has run deficits against the rest of the world for decades. The deficit with the world is $566 billion. In goods, that growing deficit is $796 billion, although in services the U.S. posts a surplus, also growing, of $230 billion. Imports from China amount to $524 billion, or 18% of the U.S. total imports of $2,895 billion. Point 4. The U.S. runs a surplus with few countries. Most are small. The combined surplus with the top 15 of such nations, including the Netherlands, the United Kingdom and Guatemala, is just over $148 billion. Point 5. The U.S. is the world's leading exporter of services. The U.S. exports more services than it imports from the rest of the world, a $230 billion surplus. The U.S. is a powerhouse of innovation with an entrepreneurial startup culture. So from a comparative advantage perspective, it makes sense that routine products such as appliances and tools are made in low-wage nations while the U.S. focuses on innovation. Moreover, trade statistics do not fully capture the U.S. advantage in services. Apple pays its subcontractor in China, Foxconn, about $10 for product assembly, with parts shipped from multiple nations. Foxconn ships the assembled iPhone to the United States at an invoice value of around $220 to $210 for imported parts, $10 for assembly. This is recorded as U.S. import from China, although only $10 of the trade value was added there. The iPhone's $649 retail value minus $220 equaling Apple's $429 gross margin appears nowhere in trade data. The Chinese value-added $10 component is worth $150 million, 4.5% of 15 million iPhones worth $3.3 billion. 6. China has a principal role in the U.S. merchandise deficit. Combining goods and services, China accounts for 59% of the U.S. trade deficit, $337 billion for China compared with $566 for the world as a whole. Tens of millions of Chinese workers toil for less than $5 per hour on behalf of U.S. consumers, making low-tech products, while a few million Americans in skilled jobs earn $35 or more per hour to develop aircraft and financial packages or produce soybean and pork. The U.S. runs a trade surplus with few nations. Source: U.S. Census Bureau. 7. All policies create winners and losers, but in international trade, winners outnumber losers. Trump won the presidency because of victories in a few key states where the earnings of disaffected workers in mature industries such as coal and steel declined during the past decade because of global competition. Other U.S. workers had flat earnings since the 2008 financial crisis. Inequality has increased. An ethic of hyper-competition has emerged, making it easy for government leaders to overlook the despair felt by bewildered millions and neglect safety nets and job training. Nevertheless, overall, most Americans are better off today than their parents in income, health, education and prospects. Unemployment is at a record low. Retirees and others enjoy record levels of benefits and healthcare. The average American enjoys the highest after-tax purchasing power in the world. 8. In almost all cases, companies accused of dumping are not losing money. Dumping is said to occur when unscrupulous importers sell products below cost and hurt competing local producers. The selling price of an imported item may be low, but almost always is above the variable cost of production and distribution, with additional over-installed capacity used to cover fixed costs in other markets. Most international marketers practice global price discrimination, pricing products at what each country's market can bear, thus maximizing overall global revenue and profits. Such dumping forces local producers to reduce prices, occasionally driving them to lay off workers and close their business. The Trump administration accuses Chinese steel and aluminum firms of dumping. China has excess capacity, more than its domestic market demands, aided by cheap loans and land from the Chinese government. The Chinese companies are probably not losing money. But so-called dumping also results in multi-billion-dollar benefits to the U.S. and other countries with low-cost steel and aluminum for cars, machinery and other products. Economy-wide benefits of international trade are diffused and hard to measure, whereas the losses are concentrated among a handful of companies in voting districts. 9. The rest of the world, including China, partially finances the U.S. trade deficit. The Chinese do not need or use dollars in their country. Chinese firms turn them over to local banks in exchange for their own currency, and banks turn them over to their central bank. The central bank reinvests that surplus in U.S. assets, mainly Treasury securities. This helps prop up the U.S. government budget, keeping the U.S. dollar strong and pleasing U.S. consumers with affordable goods and low interest rates for mortgages and credit cards while maintaining Chinese jobs. The U.S. government, spending more than it takes in from domestic tax revenue, has run a deficit for most of the last 35 years. But it still funds expenditures like defense and, as such, has accumulated $19 trillion in debt. 10. China is hungry for Western technology and company secrets. Chinese companies seek to benefit from learning rivals' technology. History demonstrates that company secrets are not kept for long. In the 1780s, firms with architect-designed spinning wheels and other equipment prompted the British government to pass draconian laws punishing anyone exporting textile machinery or designs to the U.S., which still used manual methods. Committing designs to memory, hiding them on small scraps of paper, immigrants leaked the technology to America. By 1794, the U.S. became a strong textiles rival of England. Likewise, China kept secrets in silk production, enjoying a worldwide monopoly until 552 AD, when two monks smuggled silkworms in hollow walking sticks. Chinese tea was another monopoly until the 1860s, when a Scotsman noticed that a plant in India resembled the Chinese bush. Companies trying to learn secrets is not new. But Chinese received deliberate help from their government. First, Chinese regulations prevent some foreign firms from investing and doing business in China without taking on a local company as a partner, though China recently has reduced such restrictions and Western companies, not naive, shelter their deepest secrets. Second, the Chinese government makes no secret of its nationalist desire to help Chinese companies with cyber espionage, considering that 45% of Chinese industry consists of state-owned enterprises. The U.S. may have superior capabilities, but U.S. laws would generally frown upon government covertly helping U.S. firms. In sum, U.S. trade deficits for the past 4 decades are a direct correlate of government deficits. The pattern can continue as long as 3 conditions hold. Foreign and domestic investors continue to have faith in the dollar as safe haven, investing in U.S. Treasury bills and bonds. Foreign workers continue to toil for wages at less than $5 per hour. U.S. employment remains at tolerable levels. The world has laboriously built an intricate trading system that results in interdependencies. Any adjustments will lead to a new set of winners and losers. This article first appeared on Yale Global Online. Support our journalism by subscribing to Scroll Here. We welcome your comments at letters@scroll.in. U.S. trade China-America financial deficit. U.S. deficit. World Bank sponsored content by published May 10, 2018 7:19 a.m. Pexels share tweet email Reddit print share tweet email Reddit print. It's an oft-repeated story. Shiny new dresses and smart blazers are bought with much enthusiasm, only to end up at the back of the wardrobe, frayed, faded or misshapen. From the moment of purchase, clothes are subject to wear and tear caused by nature, man-made chemicals and human mishandling. Just the act of wearing clothes is enough for gradual erosion. Some bodily functions aren't too kind on certain fabrics. Sweat, made of trace amounts of minerals, lactic acid and urea, may seem harmless. But when combined with bacteria, it can weaken and discolor clothes over time. And if you think this is something you can remedy with an antiperspirant, you'll just make matters worse. The chemical cocktail in deodorants and antiperspirants leads to those stubborn, yellowish stains that don't yield to multiple wash cycles or scrubbing sessions. Linen, rayon, cotton and synthetic blends are especially vulnerable. Add to that, sun exposure. Though a reliable dryer and disinfectant, the UV radiation from the sun causes clothes to fade. You needn't even dry your clothes out in the sun. Walking outside on a sunny day is enough for your clothes to gradually fade. And then there's what we do to our clothes when we're not wearing them, ignoring labels, forgetting to segregate while washing and maintaining improper storage habits. You think you know how to hang a sweater? Not if you hang it just like all your shirts. Gravity stretches out the neck and shoulders of heavier clothing, shielding your clothes by leaving them in the dry cleaning bag. You just trapped them in humidity and foul odor. Fabrics need to breathe, so they shouldn't be languishing in plastic bags. Tossing workout clothes into the laundry bag first thing after returning home? It's why the odor stays. Excessive moisture boosts fungal growth, so these clothes need to be hung out to dry first. Every day, a whole host of such actions unleash immense wear and tear on our clothes. Clothes encounter maximum resistance in the wash. It's the biggest factor behind premature degeneration of clothes. Wash sessions that don't adhere to the rules of fabric care have a harsh impact on clothes. For starters, extra effort often backfires. Using more detergent than is indicated may seem reasonable for a tub full of soiled clothes, but it actually adds to their erosion. Aggressive scrubbing, too, is counterproductive as it worsens stains. And most clothes can be worn a few times before being put in the wash, unless of course they are sweat-soaked gym clothes. Daily washing of regulars exposes them to too much friction, hastening their wear and tear. Different fabrics react differently to these abrasive agents. Natural fabrics include cotton, wool, silk and linen, and each has distinct care requirements. Synthetic fabrics, on the other hand, are sensitive to heat and oil. A little bit of conscious effort will help your clothes survive for longer. You can start by lessening the forces acting on the clothes while washing. Sort your clothes by fabric instead of color while loading them in the washing machine. This helps save lighter fabrics from the friction of rubbing against heavier ones. It's best to wash denim materials separately as they are quite coarse. For the same reason, clothes should be unzipped and buttoned before being tossed in the washing machine. Turning jeans, printed clothes and shirts inside out while loading will also ensure any abrasion is limited to the inner layers only. Avoid overloading the washing machine to reduce friction between the clothes. Your choice of washing tools also makes a huge difference. Invest in a Gendler detergent, devoid of excessive dyes, perfumes and other unnecessary chemicals. If you prefer a washing machine for its convenience, you needn't worry anymore. The latest washing machines are far Gendler, and even equipped to handle delicate clothing with minimal wear and tear. Bosch's range of top-loading washing machines, for example, care for your everyday wear to ensure they look as good as new over time. The machines make use of the Power Wave wash system to retain the quality of the fabrics. The wave drum movement adds a top-down motion to the regular round action for a thorough cleaning, while the dynamic water flow reduces the friction and pulling forces on the clothes. The intelligent system also creates water displacement for better movement of clothes, resulting in lesser tangles and clothes that retain their shape for longer. The wash cycles are also noiseless and more energy efficient as the motor is directly attached to the tub to reduce overall friction. Bosch's top-loading washing machines take the guesswork away from setting up controls by automatically choosing the right wash program based on the load. All that's needed is a one-touch start for a wash cycle that's free of human errors. Read more about the range here. You can also follow Bosch on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. This article was provided by the Scroll marketing team on behalf of Bosch and not by the Scroll editorial team.